Take 3 points, connect them. It doesn't wobble. Some shapes hold, some do not. Stack rocks. They become wide at the bottom and narrow at the top. It stabilizes. Look at a mountain. Same shape. A mound. This isn't design. It's what happens when weight meets gravity. A pyramid doesn't resist weight. It channels it. Every layer supports the one above it and is supported by the one below. Force moves downward, spreads outward, settles into the foundation. The wider the base, the more stable the structure. The narrower the top, the more concentrated the load. The structure aligns with physics. That's why it holds. This isn't just a shape. It's a way of organizing matter, under weight, under constraint. When something has to hold, this is one of the ways it does. Across the world, different places at different times produce the same shape. Not because people copied each other or someone else, but because they faced the same constraints. Gravity does not change. Weight behaves the same everywhere. The rules do not change. So when something has to endure, the same solutions appear. The pyramid isn't just style, it's an answer. Not the only one, but the one that appears when stability under pressure matters. The structure doesn't come first, but it always has the potential to emerge. Before something stabilizes, it diverges, spreads outwards. One path becomes many, different directions, different attempts, not fixed, not ordered. Before the pyramid, there is possibility. Not every path holds. Some collapse. Some never go anywhere. The branching continues, but it gets filtered. Pressure removes what does not work. Weight exposes weakness. Time reinforces what holds. What remains gets repeated, refined, stabilized, and over time it begins to narrow, to concentrate, to sharpen into form, a pyramid. Not imposed, but arrived at as matter organizes itself under pressure. Once it forms, it begins to shape what comes next. Future paths don't branch freely anymore. They exist within the structure. Before we built monuments, we shaped tools. We refined them towards what worked. Most shapes failed. Some held. Those were kept, repeated. Form narrowed, excess removed. Over time, the shape converged toward a point, toward a function, a stable solution. Not identical to a pyramid, but driven by the same pressure towards what works. Before we built pyramids, we made them in our hands. Pyramids didn't begin as monuments in the sand. It began when matter was forced into a shape that worked. Not all pyramids are built on purpose. Some form over generations. A structure is built. It's used. It collapses. Another is built on top, then another, and another. Layer by layer, the ground begins to rise. What was once flat becomes elevated. The present rests on the past, not removed, but buried. This is how a tell forms, a pyramid built by the passage of civilization. The same structure appears when humans organize, not in stone, but in systems. Many at the base, fewer above, direction flowing downward, support flowing upward. Orders concentrate, effort distributes. This is how large groups coordinate. Not everything organizes this way, but when scale, coordination, and stability are required, hierarchy tends to emerge. Once it stabilizes, it holds shape. Not every path remains open. Not every direction stays possible. The system begins to preserve itself. That doesn't make it or its direction just. It only means that this structure tends to form under pressure. We don't just see pyramids, we feel it. Up becomes power, height becomes status, top becomes authority, bottom becomes support. Even language reflects it. Rising, falling, higher, lower. Leaders stand above, crowds gather below. We look upward to mountains, to towers, to the sky. The pattern becomes meaning. We see the pattern. It exists in our minds. We build it in cities, in institutions, monuments, capitals, skyscrapers. Not just function, but display. Signal to make structure and order visible. To show that something has been gathered, organized, made to endure. The pyramid becomes not just a solution, but a statement of power. The same process happens in thought and creativity. Ideas begin as branching possibilities, different interpretations and directions, but they don't stay that way. They narrow, refine, until one form remains, repeated, defended, held. A doctrine, a model, an ideology, a way of seeing the world, a structure, a pyramid. Over time, the structure becomes more. It becomes a symbol of stability, of order, of permanence. And once something carries that meaning, it begins to feel legitimate. Not just functional, but right. Not consciously, but in how we respond, organize, and assign value. Thrones are elevated. Capitals sit on hills. Structures rise above everything around them. And once something feels legitimate, people begin to organize around it, maintain it, protect it, die for it. The shape becomes authority. Pyramids work. That's why they are used. They allow large groups to coordinate, to build, to organize, and persist. But it comes at a cost. Many support the structure without being at the top of it. Direction flows downward, effort flows upward. The structure organizes action, but it also limits it. Not every path is available anymore. Not every direction is possible. The same form that creates stability also creates constraint. But without the structure, there is no unified direction. There is no momentum. And if you do not build a pyramid, another pyramid will be built on top of you. The structure isn't the problem. The way we interpret it can be. We see stability and assume correctness. We see height and assume authority. We see endurance and assume truth. But structures persist for many reasons. What endures can look absolute. That does not mean it is. The goal is not to reject the structure, it is to see it for what it is. The pyramid is not a mystery, it is a pattern, a way matter stabilizes, a way systems organize, a way humans build. Once you see it, you recognize it everywhere, not as something to worship, not as something to fear, just as something that is. We didn't invent the pyramid. We recognized it, built our world in its image, and learned to live inside it. We had to. Nothing gets built without structure. Nothing survives without hierarchy. But the moment we start worshiping it, we are screwed. The tool becomes the master. Order becomes a cage. We need the pyramid, but we must take care to not be enslaved by it.